My husband's here for all extra questions as well. And thank you for presenting me. We do own another business, and it's a local apothecary called Apothecafe Botanicals. So we run 4 things in the community. I just want to put that out there. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for Jessica for having me aboard. Thank you for ODU, especially with the market on Monarch, saying yes to something so brand new to ODU. And it's community-based, which is really lovely. And thank you guys for taking the time out to actually sit and listen to my presentation. Before I start, I'm putting a disclaimer. Jessica reached out to me. I was nervous. But at the same time, when you just tell the nitty gritty, give me the real you. So the disclaimer is pretty much, if I say anything that makes your eyes go like this or be like, what? This is how I speak. This is my language. This is my communication. And it's from where I come from. And I think that is why I can build a relationship in the population I serve. So as I tell my students in lockup, is that if you have any questions or you disagree with anything I say, instead of leaving this room with judgment, I need you to bring it to my attention, because it allows me to be a better practitioner, a better human being. And this is what we also call, when we teach this in lockup, is nonviolent communication. This is what we call community. It's too much, there's too much of disconnect into the world. So to make peace, let's start by making peace with our minds with no judgment. So again, if you have anything, I'm like, hey, I got these questions and if we don't have enough time, there's an email, you could call me or whatever the case may be, okay? So about my nonprofit, this is my experience, my journey, why I started it, how it came about. So my background of who I am, as everybody know, I'm Christen Harrell. I just found out, me and Jessica actually went to high school together, so which is awesome. So who am I? I'm a wife of 3. We have a 16, 15, and a 9-year-old. I'm a wife to Ty Harrell, who's sitting right in front, who runs Equinox Coffee Company. He is also, by default, he is my business partner. He is my motivator. During my journey, there were many breakdowns. So he was there to push me along. When people said, you're crazy to do, he was the one that says, no, you're fit for it. Just go in there. I'm an Ayurvedic lifestyle counselor, an herbalist, a yoga therapist. I am also a child of domestic violence, I am a sibling and a child of family members of incarceration, being incarcerated. So my yoga, so that is kind of from that, you'll know that when I talk is that from my own experience growing up, it has birthed my nonprofit. But a little bit more about my background, my yoga experience. I've known yoga for pretty much all my life, throughout all my births. I became a yoga teacher probably 6 years ago, and certified in many other things. I'm a birth doula. I did prenatal yoga. I did all, and from there, trying to find my niche. When we want to do business, it's like, oh my God, everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing that. So how am I going to shine? Well, I always tell my students, what is your experience? What is your background? And then pull that out of you and make it in a reality kind of thing. Okay? Thinking out of the box and what you're doing. So I have a martial arts background as well. So again, I incorporate all those things all together, and I teach trauma-informed yoga in our local jail system and hopefully go into the prison system. I run Virginia Community Yoga, a nonprofit locally, and it was birthed in 2018, officially became a nonprofit in 2019. So how did the prison work find me? So I told you all the things that I've done: prenatal yoga, meditation, children's yoga, all sorts of yoga. I started teaching at these nice, beautiful centers that I know personally I couldn't afford, and the only way I could do it was I was a teacher. Then it came to me that something inside of me was saying, you know, you're meant to do something more. You're wanting, all the studying you've done, you're wanting to know more about this thing called yoga. So it's dividing me inside. And that is something we'll go over about the strategy part on how my nonprofit became. And so Prison Yoga Project actually found me. I saw it. It was expensive. I had to fly out. My family didn't have the means. So anything I did in the yoga world is I found scholarships. I did karma yoga, where that meant I cleaned up the studio. I slept in my car. I did what I had to do to get what I needed for self. Prison Yoga Project came along. There were scholarships. I went for it, found a cheap ticket, went out there to Colorado and trained, and I loved it. There were 30 people in my class. Half of them were like, oh, hell no, this is not for me. I am not going into the prison system. I'm not going to in this and that. I loved it because guess what? Again, I said I was that child. I was that sibling. I have not been incarcerated, but I've had a lot of family members, and I bet you guys know some family members or friends who've been incarcerated. So it really touched me. Before I went out to Colorado, there's this thing my ego was saying, oh, I don't know, everybody's not going to support you here in Virginia, blah, blah, blah. Then one day in Colorado, I opened a drawer. It was an old letter from my brother who was incarcerated. And that right then and there. You ever have those signs when it's like, no, your ego or your sabotager will say, no, you're not going to do that. Nobody's going to support you, blah, blah. But then all these signs starts to happen. This was my sign. And the letter was that find who you are and do your best in everything you do. So what I did is I took my traumas, I took as growing into a teen, into a young adult, into adult now, and I put it into what now has been birthed, Virginia Community Yoga. So again, it started 2018, became a nonprofit 2019. So who are we? So I kind of gave you the gist. We are a local nonprofit here. The first one in Hampton Roads to actually teach mindful movement, which is yoga, mindful meditation, and nonviolent communication in our local jail system. Come on in. You're good. So it is the first one here in Hampton Roads to do this. How's it been? I have a waiting list every semester. My husband here, Ty Harrell, if you want to come out and talk about a little bit about his background, he teaches the nonviolent communication aspect of into our program. Our program is 3 months long. And it's not that I go in and say, okay, we're going to stretch, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, da, 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 da. No, I go in and 3-month curriculum, and I make it sustainable, where my students will come out. If they still want to train in yoga, they want to be a teacher and go back into their community, or go back into the jail, prison system, and teach. Virginia Community Yoga finds a scholarship to do so. If my men, so I teach women and men in there. Not not together, but I teach my women, I teach my men, I teach them totally different. My men are a little bit more martial arts trained, and my women are a little bit different, more empowerment. And so my men, sometimes they'll come out and maybe they don't want to do yoga. They want to do some kind of mixed martial arts. So I match them with a teacher. So it's always trying to sustain them. Why I do that is because my brother was in and out of lockup, and what found him was jujitsu. He had a thick record, and all he was a number, right? My father was just a number. What is my brother doing now? He is an IT person, lives in Brazil with a yogi wife, with 3 amazing kids. And with that said, regardless of your past, you can make your life happen. And this is what I tell my students in lockup. So Ty, he, again, like I said, he teaches the nonviolent communication part, how to speak to one another. He is a graduate from Naropa University. So why did I start my nonprofit? And I kind of told you it was my passion. I took my trauma and I turned it into something so positive. And people will look at trauma as like this negative thing. Everybody here has trauma. If you don't have trauma, then you're an alien. I don't know, you know. Everybody has it. It just is how you recognize it. How you're willing to heal. Trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens inside of you as a result of what happens to you. So if you don't deal with it, you bring it into your adult life. If you don't deal with it, you bring it into everyday communication with one person or another. Okay? So that's what we kind of teach in this jail system. They do test out as well. They have homework in there and they test out. Each of them have to do a practice in front of their peers. What is that? It's a form of leadership. So that's a little bit about who we are, what we do. And then the flip side is the nonprofit, the nitty-gritty about that. Again, we own 3 for-profit businesses and 1 nonprofit business. And as I was talking to Jessica before this all started, for-profit versus nonprofit. To me, in my experience, nonprofit's much more harder. Why? Because you don't got people just walking through your doors, buying and giving you the money. You got to hustle your money. And that could be hard, especially in these times. So trying to find those avenues for your nonprofit. Running a business, which is nonprofit, is a business. It's like raising a baby or raising a child. You can read all the books, you can study everything, but when you have it right here, and people are asking you this, that, the IRS is asking you this, and that, it's all by experience. Okay? As you know, I'm not a college graduate. I'm a graduate of Hard Knock Life, which I think most of us are. Not saying that schooling is not important to open. I think it's very important. My downfall is finding the language to talk to people that may have the money to donate, because of my language is from the streets. And again, that's why I can communicate to my students. But that's where you have board of directors that help you guide all that stuff. So the nitty gritty, it's huge. It's hard work, but it does pay off. When you choose to become a nonprofit, what you just did was prove to yourself and your community that you're willing to do the work. It's not like I'm going to go get me a business license and go through the city like a for-profit. This one is a little bit more in detail. You know how many times I cried and how many times they denied me of a nonprofit? I didn't have the means to have a lawyer to just build it for myself. Me and my husband did it on our own. And when you do those things, even if you do pay for somebody to do it, but when you do it and you hit these blocks, the end of it is so damn rewarding, so rewarding. When you go through school, when you go through college, the end of it, when you graduate, is so rewarding. So that is, again, like having a business, is that you have to go through these trials and tribulations, these tests. And for my nonprofit, this is the first one ever here in Hampton Roads. When I became a prison yoga teacher, my biggest fear was when I came back here, they would laugh at me in my face. What? You want to teach yoga here? What the hell is that going to do for these inmates, these criminals, these hardcore criminals? Well, guess what? These hardcore criminals were human beings that made a mistake, just like every one of us in this room. And so I had to prove to them, I had to sell myself to say, no, I'll do this for free, and then I'll show you. And ever since 2018, they've asked me back every year. It's working. It's working. Every year I have 1 or 2 students coming out, contact me, train. Where are you training now? X, Y, and Z. I said, one of my students does my hair. You know, like, you form a relationship. And when a person can see that they're not just a number and a human being, you know how much it transforms them? How much it'll transform you as one that is a practitioner, but transforms you and your project that you chose to do for your community. I think so. The pros and cons. So what I did, I'm so thankful for you, Jessica, because you gave me like bullet points what I need to hit. Boom, 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 which is awesome because I could be everywhere. Especially having coffee, and that's all I had today was coffee. I could be everywhere. But the pros and cons of having a nonprofit. Well, actually, how many of you are starting a nonprofit or have a business in mind? Or okay. Well, you guys probably have some kind of idea because I don't know if you'd be sitting in the business room and just be like, no, I'm not planning on having a business or nonprofit. So the pros and cons of any business, for me, the nonprofit, the pros is that your passion is your job. For my nonprofit, I make a difference in myself first and then to others. The same thing as I was saying, that when you see a transformation in somebody, it transforms you as well. You could take your nonprofit as fast or as slow as you want. For-profit businesses like our coffee shop, I would say kind of the opposite. You could correct me if I'm wrong. You have to wait for the people to come in. You have to advertise. You got people come in, you know, and you could have a rush of people. You could have a slow day or whatever. For your nonprofit is, like I said, you could go as fast or as slow. And then you determine the outcome of your nonprofit. You're an executive director of the nonprofit. You determine which way it's going to go, how you want to expand. The cons of having a nonprofit, for me, I know my strength. When you go into a business, you need to know what your strength is. And then from that, you fill in people, which is your board of directors, who could pick up what you cannot do. Say the logistic part, the grant writing part, the fundraising part. So my problems is, one was trying to even become a nonprofit. All that paperwork with the extra words on it, that's not in my vocabulary. My vocabulary is jails. My vocabulary is prison work. My vocabulary is this much, and it could be very slang. And so when you do a nonprofit, you have to bring it towards a bigger audience. My husband helped me a lot on that, so I'm so thankful for that. The legal logistics to it, what you can and cannot do as a nonprofit. There are limitations that you can do as a nonprofit. In my field is actually being taken seriously. Again, actually, show of hands, how many of you heard of bringing yoga into the prison? Just a few. Before this, just a few of you guys. So coming to Hampton Roads and actually doing it and making it happen. People didn't take me, my own family didn't take me seriously. My own family thought I was crazy. The other things is that you will run into is, might be petty in a sense, but people wanting to take that idea and run with it. Wanting a part of that from you. So these are the things I have to come across a lot. But, honing it in and knowing that this is your baby, you could definitely share it, but to a certain extent, especially in what I do, because I can't have just any yoga instructor go in and teach yoga and not understand that when you walk in, again, your book smarts tend to walk out the door. Now it becomes the street smarts. Now it becomes the smell of the South. As a female walking into the men's block and getting hollered at 10 times worse as you did if you ever got hollered at on the street. Women. I mean, I get a mix. First it was like the ones that got the hand on the slap. I get a mix of people now. You go through the women's block, you have to walk through people that murdered people. That energy alone could affect somebody. Receiving, another problem is receiving funding, especially in this time. It's pretty hard to find funding for what I do. Again, I said grant writing. When you first start, you don't have money. When you first start, you can't think you're going to get paid right off the bat. So don't quit your daytime job. Don't quit going to school. It's a lot. For me, it's been hard for people to come through to do things pro bono at first. So again, knowing your connections is very important. Networking is very important. ODU has amazing workshops on nonprofit. And I think they're for free. I'm not very sure, right? Again, comes back to know that what your strengths are. I know I can execute what my mission is. Everything else, I am not good at. And with me saying that, it doesn't mean I'm a horrible executive director. I just know where my place is at. And then I know how to fill in my board of directors. You can't do everything. You cannot. If you do, your nonprofit tends to go like this. So be able to ask for help where help is needed. Another problem that I tend to face is the background stuff, the IRS stuff. That's not my thing. Again, that's when you pull people in. Nonprofit, they want to know everything. So making sure you have that right person in place for that. So how many of you guys are in business and wanting to start a business? Show of hands. And how many of you guys want to do nonprofit work? Yeah. Okay. So when I was writing this out, came up with a developing strategy. So I came up with my own. And it is called YES. Not Y-E-S. It's like yes. Like when you make that, when you graduate, you're like, yes, I did it. I did my foundation, all that. What does that mean? YAS, it's yoga aspect strategy. Again, I'm a yoga teacher. And this strategy, it might be silly to you guys because most of you guys want to know, well, what is the strategy to open up my nonprofit? What is that? Point, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, we're going to back it up a little bit. As an Ayurvedic practitioner, it's not like you have this issue and then I give you some herb for it. You have an issue. Ayurveda practitioners like to go backwards. So why do you have this issue? Where does it stem from? So from this, the yoga aspect strategy is this idea. Where does it come from? How do we make this strategy work, right? So first, for me, it started as witnessing. What does that mean? Witnessing the environment, your life, your past, present, and future. Right? So witnessing all of this. From my story is I witnessed my childhood, what I had to deal with, something inside me. From there, birth to pretty much backing up a little, taking what you already experienced and know and turning it into your drive to become. How many of you guys here as ODU students or just, people coming here, how many of you guys took something that probably has happened to you in the past and you are now going to school for it? Maybe somebody got sick in your family and now you want to be a nurse. You want to be a doctor. Come from a family that didn't have much, but you have a drive to be a business person. Think of all those little things. Those little things you don't really even think about. You just think high school, I'm not saying all of you guys, but I'm saying in me was high school, go to college and figure out what the hell you want to be in life. And then you graduate, you're in your job, 20 years later, you're like, I am so damn miserable. You know how many friends I know that have done that? Because of the pressures of having to go to college and figure something out. So it comes to, what does Christine want to accomplish? Why am I given, or why I have been chosen to do this? So what do I want to accomplish? So think about your journey right now. Are you doing it to make somebody else happy? Or are you doing it because this is your passion? This is what you really want to do in life. And then from there becomes a feeling, this feeling or intuition. So from witnessing everything of your life, and then the feeling of this is what I really want to do. From that becomes a thought. And then this thought, when it becomes consistent over and over and over again, right? The thought of going to school and whatnot, doing what you want to do, it's over and over again. And then from there is believing what is true for you, believing in yourself. And then from that, believing into expectations that dictate your attitude, how you're going to go about, how you're going to approach certain people to get what you need. From your attitude, it affects how you behave. It all goes inside with that. And then your attitude could also be the self-sabotager, as I say, is I can't do this. Nobody's going to believe in me. Or you could say, I can do this. Nothing's going to stop me. And then the behavior is the state of being, pretty much your vibration. And some of you guys are like, okay, so where's the strategy? If you can hone that in and you can be solid in that, what happens is that then your business is formed. Then your core values start to happen. Because you know why? You kind of know who the hell you are. You kind of know this is what I want to do. It's not for my mom. It's not for my parents. It's not for my husband. It's not for my wife. It's for me. And then the business is formed. Core values are formed. Then you do your research. You guys are in school. They give you certain things. Soak it all up. Research. Who is your audience? Do you have the money to pay somebody to start your business? What is your purpose? What is your mission? Go to nonprofit events. Again, ODU has that for you. See what it takes to be a nonprofit. And then one step at a time. Don't allow your ego or that thing called self-sabotaging to affect or take you down. I've known a lot of business people who would get this thing of, okay, I got this idea, nobody's done it, I gotta be the first, So you have the idea and you totally skip the middle and trying to be that first person, then you miss everything in the middle, right? And then everything starts not going your way. So the scaling back, what is needed? Again, going over, taking it slow at first, figuring out the purpose of your hard work, because having a nonprofit is not easy. The paperwork alone could be, it's a beast. In my experience, it's a beast. When you do a nonprofit, like I mentioned before, don't try to quit your day job. Don't do that, because it's not like you're going to get paid right offhand. Assess what is going on. When you start your nonprofit, assess everything that you have on your plate: school, family, work. Start off with a few board members. You don't have to have 10. You could have 3. My husband's one board member. I have a doctor for a board member. So setting them up. In my experience, do not hire friends. Because if they're not doing their job, it's going to be hard for you to be like, peace out. I can't. You're weighing me down. Again, taking it as fast or slow as you like. Figure out ways to put yourself in the public eye. Social media, churches, other organizations, community building. Who is your audience? I think one thing that me and Jessica were just talking about before this, for the presentation, was that some of you guys have a business that there's a lot out there. So how do you find that one niche to separate you, right? We have a coffee shop, and there's plenty of coffee shops. We come from Boulder, Colorado. We're originally from here, but we live in Boulder, Colorado, where there's coffee shops everywhere. It's mountain living. I always believe that it can be the coffee, but it's the person that's running the coffee shop that makes your coffee shop, if you get what I'm saying. If you want to do some kind of art, there's a lot of art therapy. What is a population that is forgotten about? Most of the time, what is forgotten about is the youth, the elderly, and the populations, the less unfortunate populations, the trouble populations. Think of all of those. Networking, that is huge. Collaboration is huge. One thing I always go by is that when you take care of your community, the community will always be there for you. That's the truth. When you're willing to be there for community, be like, oh yeah, they've done X, Y, and Z for community. And so they'll back you up. The other question that I was given was, how was Virginia Queen Yoga changed? I don't really like using the word change. It's a sort of way. Change to me is you could change, but you can always go back to your ways, right? I like to use the word transform, like the butterfly effect. You're a cocoon, but it takes you a while to become this beautiful butterfly, right? Virginia Queen Yoga has transformed, and it needs to be. It needs to transform into, even if sometimes I feel like it's a setback, it's transforming. Why is it transforming? Because it's transforming me. It's pushing me to where I need to be a leader and an executive director to something that I am so passionate about. Your business should always be transforming in little ways, because you transform. You evolve. The world evolves. You will always be creative. You will want to make it better. Why? Is because this is your legacy. This is what you are creating. Even if it doesn't go for years and years and years and beyond, you've created it. You created it. This was your thoughts. That was your yes. Again, you'll feel setbacks, but these setbacks, as everybody will tell you, they're actually going forward. Or are these setbacks like cupcakes and rainbow sprinkles? No. These setbacks could have you crying in the corner and questioning, why the hell am I doing this? Nobody gives one bit about what I do. But does it matter? No, because you care. You care for what, if I've been doing this since 2018, and I can only have a handful of students that come see me, but that is a handful of students that are no longer on the streets. This is a handful of students that are making a difference in their community. These are grown-ass men, grown-ass women are making a difference. And that is my mission. I'm not there to fix, change anybody. I'm not there to help nobody. As you in your life have been guided through life, as anybody, the next person next to you could be your teacher. You guys could be my teacher. Because of something that they have said that made you go, whoa. You know what I'm saying? So, any good entrepreneur have to make mistakes. The best entrepreneurs are the ones that mess up all the time. In my notes, I have the F word, but I don't, again, that's my language. They have to F up all the time because that's the only way you learn. When something fails is because you're not learning your lesson. It's the people like my students in lockup, I would have students that come in and I'm like, man, you were here last semester. I thought you left. Well, Miss Christine, so-and-so, so-and-so. And I'm like, when are you going to learn your lesson? When are you going to learn your lesson? It's right in front of you. It takes a while for some people, though. So my motto for Virginia Community Yoga is freedom through transformation, unity and diversity through yoga, which is true. When you transform, there's this sense of freedom, and it becomes a long-term effect. To me, a change is more short-term. You want to transform, right? You want to transform into the butterfly. You've been in a cocoon for so long. Now you want to transform. So the last question that was given was, why would you start a nonprofit? Why do we even start all these businesses, babe? Sheesh. With everything I said, I mean, it should be obvious is because I had the drive. I had the passion. It was calling to me. I was done doing studio work. I wanted this thing called yoga that all teachers talk about, how it could transform people. But it did for me. But now I wanted to put it into a community that I knew, a community I grew up in. And because I was able to see that, it fed me more. It didn't feed my ego. It fed me as, it bettered me as a human being. And that's sustainable. There's a lot of nonprofits that are not sustainable because either your ego gets involved and you want the money and you lose focus of the mission. Also businesses. When you know, again, that yoga aspect strategy, the yes, it's really the question that I always ask my students in lockup is, who are you? If you removed all the titles that you were given in your life, your name, the caps that you wear every single day, who are you? When your business fails or you feel like it fails or your nonprofit seems like it's going downhill, how are you going to recover? You go back to, what was the mission? What was my core values? Then you pick it back up again. Take a while, but we all got to learn our lessons, right? So why would you start a nonprofit? Is because you believe in your mission. You believe into that strategy that I gave you. You believe in yourself. And if it doesn't play out, it's okay because you did it. You have two choices. You can either say, I tried it and I did, or you could be like, man, what if I did do that? What if? Just what if? Where could it be? I'd rather be on. You guys all probably know, I had two shops, one Cawley, one here at ODU. We shut down our ODU shop. We didn't see a pandemic coming. But one thing you should not be willing to do is sacrifice for something that won't give you what your family will give you at the end of everything, if you understand what I'm saying. And sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs need to learn the hard way. So when you start a nonprofit, like I said before, you're willing to do the work even if you feel that everything is going against you. Nonprofit work is so much harder because, again, nobody's coming in and out of your door just to hand you money like a coffee shop. You have to find those people. You have to find your ways to bring in the money. In my situation, I have to make people in my own community believe that the work that I do makes a difference. You know how many roadblocks that I got hit with that? How many looks that was like, you're crazy? How many yoga teachers that want to come up to me and say, I could help you, but then I have to turn them down and say they will eat you alive in there? But at the end of all that, my legacy is that I did what Christine wanted to do. And that's very important. I started to learn more about myself, my wants, my needs, the bad, the ugly, the good, out of the whole my own nonprofit. So it's not more than just, hey, this is my nonprofit and this entity. It's more than that. And you have to see that inside of you. Okay. So one thing we wasn't a question into the email was, so when you have this nonprofit, you have this business, what is the exit strategy? Say you don't want to do this anymore, but you believe like it's worth keep going with this. So I'm going to actually pass the mic to my husband about the exit strategy on your businesses, because it's very important to have.
Ty Harrell. Brief introduction. My background is I went to Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado for international peace and conflict studies. That degree was prepped to either take you into the nonprofit sector or to work for government agencies, doing community work or state government work. However, within that, I took my own route and became an entrepreneur, deciding to take that field of study into being socially active in my community and doing that through business development. And through that, we have the nonprofit, which is community involvement. It is community engagement. It is to create an impact and to transform lives for sure. And to see that happen is very rewarding. Within that, there are certainly a lot of hurdles to jump with navigating the paperwork and the logistics of getting it set up, how you're going to operate, how you're going to find funding, what that funding is going to go to, and how you're going to maintain and sustain this thing. And it's the same with a business. And that's why the two can cross very seamlessly at times, where you're like, hold on. When you're in a nonprofit, you're like, wait, this seems very much like a business. And I thought I was getting into this to not be a business, but to be in service work. But you see the organization of it and how it's set up. It functions, has to be organized just like a business. And you have to have the same level of commitment into it. Even though Dean said is exactly true, that you can take it as fast or as slow as you want to. And within that, it does create a certain amount of freedom to develop it at your own pace. And then, once you see that, okay, this is a sustainable thing, is this something that can also sustain me financially? Or is it really my service work? Is it my passion? Is it my giving back to the world, giving back to the community? Because this is my drive, this is my commitment and my mission, and what I want to leave as my legacy. So with having a coffee shop, it seems like customer service. It seems like, it's an exchange for goods, right? I'm exchanging with customers for coffee, but it's way more than that. I think everybody is familiar with the experience of going into a coffee shop. I don't know if any of you here had the chance to visit our shop here while we were open. Unfortunately, yes, that did not go as planned for us. And we held on to it for as long as we could until we had to make a very difficult decision to let it go and recenter our focus back into what the original vision was for us, and why we started that shop on Kali Avenue and 28th Street, and back into entrepreneurship as a form of social action and a form of community development. We put a coffee shop on a corner where there's never been a coffee shop. And the history of the corner where our shop is right now is not the brightest history of it. And the neighborhood itself hasn't had the brightest history for the past 20, 25, 30 years. And, whatever we could do positive to transform, again, to turn a neighborhood into something positive, to create something positive, where prior to that there was drugs being sold, there was prostitution going on. We decided to come in and say, we want to put something positive here, and we want to do something that can generate community engagement, and something that can be a place for people to meet, and a place for people to share ideas on what else can be done in this community. And that's always been the original vision. And so coming here, yes, we were excited about engaging with the university population for this exact reason of why we're standing here today, is to share our experience in a way that helps you guys who are in the position of students, right? Everybody here is a student. Yes? No? Okay. Well, either way, you all are here for the purpose of gaining something out of this, right? And this is important to us to share through our experience in ways that can help you guys develop on where you're going and what you're working on right now in your life and what you want to develop. And that was a huge piece of why we were excited of coming here. It wasn't about the prospect of there being heavy traffic because it's a university location. It was more about being a space for students and engaging with students and being a presence on campus to help generate ideas with what can happen in this city that's not already happening, or in your hometown, if you're not from here, if you have plans of going back there once you graduate, or wherever you're going in life, to generate some ideas on where the world is going, what you envision and what you want to do with your life, and what you want to add to your community, and how you want to shape your life, right? But again, like within business and entrepreneurship, finances are a huge thing. Funding is one of those things that you for me personally, right? Like with us as a team, we have our strengths, right? I'm a lot of the times the logistics, I think logical, Christine's action based. And when she's logical and she's thinking about how to do things, I'm the action, and so, and that's a trade-off between us. And one of the things with me is I like to be the creative side. I like to be in the marketing. I like to be in the side of engagement with the coffee shop, engagement with the customers, developing the aesthetic, the presentation of the business, like that side of it. I love doing that. When it comes to the organizational side of it and the administration side of it, it bogs me down. And it makes me just want to say, you know what, I don't know. I don't know about this. Like I would rather leave that for a day when I don't have anything else going on. And the problem is that day never comes, and I never get to that day. And so that's where you do have to figure out your strengths and your weaknesses. She did ask me to speak to exit plan. So let me speak to that directly, being that we just had to act on an exit plan recently. When you're starting something, whether it be a nonprofit, whether it be a for-profit business, you have this vision of it being something that you potentially will ride out for the rest of your life. The reality of it is that might not be the case. You have to, when you're going into it and you're developing your plan, you need to figure out what to do if it doesn't work out. And having that in place gives you that security to where it doesn't turn into something worse than it could have been. So I guess, I guess with that, I would like to go into question and answer. Any questions that you guys have. Really, I think both of us speak better to questions. We can stand up here and just run our mouths, but we will speak better to any questions that you guys have. And I think that that's more effective towards you guys getting the most out of this talk.
Or do you also do it for
Since 2018, I've been doing it in lockup. I will be actually teaching trauma-informed yoga here at the Gordon Galleries. Thank you for calling over here. So that will be starting in October, the first Thursday in October. $5 for students to come in. And that would be October 7th, and that would be from 6 to 7:15. Okay. I'm also starting what is called DT Flow at the Karate Academy, if you guys know what that is. It's on 45th Street where they do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That is actually discipline transformation flow. That is when I will take my mixed martial arts and put it into yoga. So it is the martial arts, it is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or some capoeira. So intertwining all of those. So that is a little bit more strenuous. Those are the forms that I kind of do with my men's block a little bit, with the emphasis of trauma-informed yoga. So, yeah. So that is like, I'm coming back to the public now. Yeah, please do. Please do. Like I said, Thursday at the Gordon Art Gallery, starting October 7th, is from 6 to 7:15. And that is all beginners. It doesn't matter what level you are at. So we're going to be there. And then starting in November, we'll be at the Karate Academy. What's that? The one at the Gordon Art Gallery is October 7th.
So what is involved in forming a board for a nonprofit?
Okay, so that can be pretty tricky. I would say first, for me, it was a networking, knowing what my mission was, what my vision was, And then when I networked and I talked about what my nonprofit was about, you start to meet certain people. The way I look at everything that I do is that when it starts to flow, then it's like it's this meant to be kind of thing. When you start meeting certain people, oh, it's meant to be. Don't be scared to ask. A lot of people want to help. And by the way, those that are students, sorry, this other students had to probably dip out, but if you are a student and you have to pay, after graduation, you have to pay your tuition. If you work for a nonprofit for about 10 years and you pay for those 10 years, your tuition will be wiped clean after 10 years. So that's a benefit of working for a nonprofit. But yeah, for the board, you do want to kind of pick people's brains, and that's what had happened. Like I said, to get where my program's at, to get it for evidence-based, having a doctor on my board was very important, because my doctor is also one of my private clients as a yoga therapist, which is funny because all my clients tend to be doctors. So they see that it works for them as well. So yeah, that is a very good question. Thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate it.